Review for Capricorn 1, 1978, directed by Peter Hyams. So, I'm a fan of Peter Hyams. He's not like my favorite director or anything. I think he's like a solid, like workman, craftsman. I like Outland. I like this. Uh, I even like 2010, the year we make contact. It's a good movie. Not as good as 2001 or anything. He's no Stanley Kubrick or anything like that, but solid director, tells the good story. In a way, he kind of reminds me of like a Richard Donner or something, where he knows how to tell a good story. His movies look good. Um, you don't get confused. There's not many plot holes or anything like that. Just a good kind of old school workman kind of director. And this is another example of that. I mean, let's see what else did he direct? He directed Time Cop, right? Yeah, that's another good movie. Sudden Death, I like that movie too. So before this, Pepper, Our Time, haven't seen those, but he's also a cinematographer. So he's the director of photography on Time Cop, Sudden Death. Not this though. So, but anyways, this is a really enjoyable movie. They wouldn't make this today because I think conspiracy theory movies have fallen out of favor. Um, for some reason, this was a time in the '70s after Kennedy and his brother, what happened to them, and Martin Luther King, and all the things that were coming out about the CIA and the NSA and stuff, and people were losing trust in their government and asking questions. And in this movie, they fake the moon land, or not the moon landing, the Mars landing. Sorry. This is the synopsis. When the first manned flight to Mars is deemed unsafe and scrubbed on the launch pad, anxious authorities must scramble to save face and retain their funding, and so an unthinkable plot to fake the mission is hatched. Great cast: Josh Brolin, or James Brolin, sorry. Sam Waterston, who you remember from a lot of Law and Order. That's what I think when I see the guy. He's in The Killing Fields and The Great Gatsby. But and oh yeah, and he did End of Days. I like that. So yeah, it's just a lot of movies Peter Hyams did. I enjoy. I don't think a lot of them are like great movies. Like this is like my favorite, but very well done. Very well done. Telly Savalas is great in the role in the last act of the movie. He kind of, I think, brings a little bit of humor and life into the movie at the end. Kind of the movie's maybe in a little bit of a lull, and then he kind of comes in and pushes it up. David Huddleston and O.J. Simpson, yes. Who, he's not that good of an actor. Like, he doesn't even talk that much in this movie. And it's kind of funny because at parts he's talking to his wife and saying how much he loves her and he cares so much about his family and his wife and everything that happened with him later. So I just found that hilarious. But um, basically James Brolin is the star and Elliot Gould. James Brolin is an all-American hero astronaut. they're in the spacecraft. It's about to go up, and then all of a sudden, a guy from Mission Control comes in and says, "Hey, you need to leave the spacecraft now." They're like, "What?" And he's like, "Now." So they leave. They get put on an airplane. They get flown to this old facility, and it's explained to them by Hal Holbrook, another good actor, that basically we're going to fake the mission to Mars because we found out that the life support system isn't going to work. You would have died after a couple weeks in space, and we can't have that because people are getting bored with the space program. The Congress is talking about cutting its funding, and then that's the setup for the rest of the movie. And then James Brolin doesn't really want to do it. Hal Holbrook basically says, "Well, all your guys' families are on an airplane right now, and if you don't do it, then we're gonna kill them." And that's basically what he says. And he said there's a device on the airplane, and if I don't give the all clear, then that airplane's going down. And then, of course, they're gonna be killed too because they're supposed to be up in space, and they could just easily say something bad happened and they're gone. So that's the setup for the movie. Elliot Gould is a reporter who starts to catch on to some strange things going on, and he's basically the investigative detective part of the movie. And I like Elliot Gould. He's an all right actor. It seemed like in the '70s they were kind of trying to make him into kind of a bigger act, maybe kind of like a tough guy a little bit, with like a sarcastic kind of tough guy. I don't know if I buy it really, but he's an all right actor. He's not bad. There are some things. Peter Hyams wrote the script too. There are some things that are like kind of convenient. It's a good script. It is, but probably just some things that happened, and they could have explained it better, but then the movie would have been like 20 minutes longer, and it's already 2 hours, so that probably would have made the movie kind of a little bit boring. Like, Elliot Gould is investigating, and he for if you've seen the movie, and this is all spoilers. I'd recommend it. It's not like an incredible movie, but I think it's interesting. I like conspiracy thrillers, like in the vein of the Parallax View and stuff like that. Big fan of the X-Files too, so this is in my wheelhouse. But like he's investigating, and for this reason, he goes to this old western town, which is explained in the movie, but someone shoots at him with a gun. And then he just falls down and then runs away. And it's like, why don't you they could just kill the guy. They could just kill him. They already tried to kill him earlier. They cut his brakes on his car. He barely survived that. His car goes into the ocean off a bridge. So they already showed that they're willing to kill him. So why not just kill him then? I mean, but they don't. So they shoot at him, they miss. I guess they're threatening him, but they already tried to kill him, I think, by that point. Um, they kill his friend who worked at NASA, and he started to see some odd things on his computer, and he worked at Mission Control. He brought it up to his superior, then he brought it up to Hal Holbrook, and they just basically brush him off, saying, "Oh, that's just your system's messed up. We'll fix it." And in another convenience, he happens to be old friends with Elliot Gould, and they're getting drunk in a bar, and he starts telling him about these weird things. And then Elliot Gould takes a phone call, and he comes back, and the guy's gone. And then later, he tries to call the guy a bunch of times. His phone's disconnected. He goes to the guy's apartment. Some random lady's living there. She's like, "I've lived here for a while. What are you talking about? This is my apartment." So they basically just disappear this guy. And so it's kind of convenient. Oh, he happens to be good friends with the guy that basically starts him questioning. is this fake? What's, where are these guys? Are these guys actually in space? Um, so, there's that. Um, a few other convenient things. Like at the end of the movie with Telly Savalas, who is this basically crop duster, and he wants to have him fly around and look for Josh Brolin or James Brolin, and who's Josh Brolin's father, of course, and then they are flying around and they find him, and pretty quickly. So definitely in the script there's some conveniences. James Brolin and OJ and the other guy are in a room, basically secluded. They're they've already kind of talked about how they don't like this, how he may not go along with it. So they have some problems, and then this is when um, Mission Control, when they're re-entering after they landed on the moon, after they shot that, or not the moon, the Mars, because the whole conspiracy thing about the moon landing's fake and everything. So I keep saying the moon, but it's Mars, and they shoot it, and he goes along with it because they threaten his family and OJ's family, and the other guy's family, which is just funny. OJ talking to his wife because of what happened with him, although he was innocent, right? So, um, yeah, and then when they're re-entering, they decide to kill them, and the heat shield separates, and they become, they get burned up in the atmosphere, and they're dead. They figure it out because they're in this little room, and they're like, "This is weird. They're just keeping us here. We should have already, have been put into the reentry vehicle in the water so that the Navy can come get them." And they're basically just able to easily escape. Like, there's not even a guard outside their room. It's just like, come on. They are locked in the room, but James Brolin manages to easily get out. And then there's a few guys that are guarding the airplane. They're able to knock them out, and they fly off. And it makes sense. He knows how to fly because they're all ex-military. They're probably all ex-pilots, which is a lot what astronauts are. They, at least back then, especially, a lot of them were ex-military pilots. Another convenience is Elliot Gould is he is able to find the facility where they shot the Mars landing, and he's just able to walk in there, and it still has power, and it's all taken down, kind of, but there's still the red dirt on the ground. And he's like, "Huh, that looks kind of weird," and then he stumbles upon in the ground this necklace that James Brolin has, and it says, from his wife to him. So that kind of seals the deal on, okay, so they faked the Mars landing. And James Brolin is either dead or he's somewhere. So there's definitely some contrivances in the script that aren't big problems, but they're conveniences. But I like the movie, so I'm kind of okay with them. One thing now that I'm sitting here thinking about it is when they escape that room, I thought he uses that necklace to get to like kind of pick the lock. But then earlier, didn't he find the necklace? I don't know. Maybe it's explained because I think Peter Hyams he's a good writer, so I don't think he would mess that up. But I don't know. And Telly Savalas is a fun actor. He was huge in the '70s. with Kojak, and it's confusing because there's that Kojak, and then there's also Kojak the Night Stalker, who that's the X Files is kind of based on that, and David Lynch Twin Peaks, but and then he's also of course in the Dirty Dozen, and he plays like the psycho. That's a great movie. I should review that. But yeah, but really good movie. I mean, man, what does Peter Hyams have like? Probably like 10 movies I think are really solid. Most directors don't even have like five, so you got to give it to the guy. But yeah, I guess that's about it though. I also thought it was kind of ridiculous that like the president and the vice president weren't in on it. It's kind of like the president was talking to Hal Holbrook, whatever, like a year before the mission or something. It was basically like, I want this mission to be successful. If it's not, they may pull the funding. All this may go away. So make it successful. Like, not like saying like do fraud, but like, he took that to be the president has told me to do anything I can to make this successful. So, and Hal Holbrook's really good because like he could be really likable and nice to Brolin and his wife. Like he's like old friends with him. He's friends with the wife, but at the turn of a dime, he's basically like, I'll kill you and I'll, kill your family. I'll kill all your families. So really ruthless bureaucrat that you totally buy. So, oh yeah, and then another thing I found interesting in this movie is Peter Hyams directed 2010, the year we made contact, which is a sequel to 2001, which is directed by Stanley Kubrick. Who the conspiracy theories go, which you may think are ridiculous or whatever, but they're out there that Stanley Kubrick shot the moon landing and it was fake, like at least the first one, because they didn't have the tech to do it at the time, and a bunch of other reasons. You can go research it on your own. Um, and that he shot the moon landing. And let's be honest, if anyone was going to shoot it back then, it was Kubrick. And if you watch some things in The Shining, some other things, there's a little bit of nods to it. But is it Kubrick saying he shot the moon landing, or is it Kubrick making fun of the conspiracy theories that he shot the moon landing? And we'll never know. So, especially in The Shining, there's a scene with the little kid. It's totally either admitting he shot the moon landing, or he's spoofing the conspiracy theories that he shot it and making fun of them. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure what he's doing there because Kubrick never would explain it. Of course, he didn't do commentaries to his movies, of course, and that was part of the fun for him. I think is, well, I'm not going to explain it to you. Watch the movie. So, but I just found that really interesting that this director would then shoot a movie where they fake the Mars landing, and he has a connection to Kubrick, who the conspiracy theories are out there about the moon landing. And apparently he called Kubrick when I think they were thinking of doing a sequel to 2001, and they wanted Peter Hyams because he's a cinematographer, so the movie looks good. To 2010 looks good, and he talked to Kubrick, and Kubrick gave him the okay to make the sequel to 2001, and he said, just don't worry about it, just do your own thing. So that's kind of cool. Kubrick isn't so full of himself that, how dare you even think about making a movie to my masterpiece or whatever. Um, so, but apparently the biplane stunt when they're being chased by the two helicopters was incredibly dangerous. Frank Tallman said that at the film's dogfight final finale, which Terry Savalas is the pilot of the biplane. The most dangerous and complex aerial sequence ever executed for a movie. Frank Talman, who flew the Red Stearman plane, claimed this film was the most dangerous film he's ever flown for. He was killed in a crash soon after filming finished. It's kind of weird. This is the trivia. Most successfully independently produced picture at the box office for the year of 1978. The snake that Charles Brubaker eats was stuffed with raw fish. Those scenes are kind of cool too when they all go different directions in the desert. And I assume that, the two other guys they find them, they show them find them, and I assume that they're killed. The runaway car chase sequence was so successful it has been used in other movies and TV shows. Jerry Goldsmith wrote the soundtrack for Capricorn 1. Apparently, some of the music is somewhat similar to parts of Star Trek Insurrection. Okay, I didn't really notice that, but writer-director Peter Hyams once said of audience reaction to this movie, audiences just stood up and cheered at one point in the film. It wasn't because it was such a great movie, it's just that certain movies strike certain chords with people. In a successful movie, the audience, almost before they see it, know they're going to like it. I remember standing in the back of a theater and crying because I knew that something had changed in my life. Sitting on the film cans outside the screening room, I felt my cheeks were wet with tears. A bright man, David Picker, studio executive, came to me and said, "You're going to have a lot of new best friends tomorrow. You better know how to handle it." Peter Hyams had earlier responded to the Apollo 11 moon landing by saying there was one event of really enormous importance that had almost no witnesses, and the only verification we had came from a TV camera. Telly Savalas plays a pilot, but in real life he was afraid to fly. Director Peter Hyams had originally written the screenplay soon after the moon landing in 1969, around 9 years before this movie debuted in cinemas. Hyams couldn't find any backing or interest in the project, but then after the Republicans Watergate scandal in 1972, Hyams sold the script and got the movie right into the development. He approached producer Paul Paul Lazarus, Peter Hyams, and Lazarus had a meeting with Lou Grade, head of production company ITC Entertainment, who had recently moved into film production, The Return of the Pink Panther. The budget was $4.8 million. It took a few more years to produce the picture and got into principal photography, with the movie finally launching in theaters in 1978. Two different authors wrote the novelization. The film was a part of a cycle of 70s conspiracy theories. Executive Action, 73. Clute, 71. Chinatown, 74. Clutter's Way, 81. Teflon, 77. Winter Kills. The Conversation. The Parallax View. 3 Days of the Condor. The Domino Principle. Good Guys Wear Black. Twilight's Last Gleaming. Hangar 18. Capricorn 1. All the President's Men. Blowout. Yeah. But, that's about it, though. So, see you next time.